Breaking news. Canada is reducing its immigration targets by a whopping 20% starting in 2025. What's behind this dramatic shift in policy? How will it impact immigrants, businesses, and the broader Canadian economy? Stick around as we dissect every detail of this landmark announcement and what it means for the future of immigration in Canada. Canada has long been celebrated as one of the most immigrant-friendly nations in the world, with policies designed to welcome individuals from all corners of the globe. But today's news has many scratching their heads. In a shocking move, the Canadian government announced a plan to significantly scale back its immigration targets over the next 3 years. Starting in 2025, Canada will admit 395,000 new permanent residents, down from a target of 485,000 in 2024. By 2027, the number will dip even further to 365,000. So, why the sudden shift? Is this a strategic move to balance the economy, or are there deeper political motives at play? And what does this mean for those hoping to make Canada their new home? The announcement came from none other than Prime Minister Trudeau, a departure from the usual protocol where the immigration minister takes the lead. This alone signals the gravity of the situation. Trudeau, who has long championed Canada's role as a leader in welcoming immigrants, took the stage to emphasize that immigration continues to play a crucial role in the country's success, stating, "Our immigration policies has made our economy the envy of the world." However, many are left wondering if this reduction is part of a larger political strategy, particularly as the country gears up for an election. With rising concerns over housing shortages, job competition, and public service strain, could these cuts be an attempt to appease critics of mass immigration? Let's dive into the numbers. Here is what the government has outlined for permanent resident admissions over the next 3 years. 2025, 395,000 new permanent residents, down from the 2024 target of 485,000. In 2026, 380,000 new permanent residents, previously targeted at 500,000. 2027, 365,000 new permanent residents, a further drop from the 2024-2026 plan of 500,000 people. At first glance, these reductions might seem surprising, especially given that just last year, the government was projecting to welcoming 500,000 immigrants annually by 2026. However, it's not all about cutting numbers. The focus is shifting, and there are still some areas where the government plans to increase its efforts, particularly when it comes to economic immigration. Despite the overall reduction in permanent resident targets, economic immigration remains a key priority. In 2025, Canada will admit 232,000 economic immigrants, which is only a 15% reduction from the previous target of 272,000. The government clearly understands the importance of skilled workers in driving economic growth. And even with these cuts, the majority of immigrants will still fall under economic category. This includes skilled workers, entrepreneurs, and those arriving through programs like Express Entry and even provincial nominee program. But here is an interesting fact. Only 40% of economic immigrants are expected to come from outside of Canada. That means the majority will transition from temporary resident status through programs like Canadian Experience Class to permanent residency. Before we go any further, please like, subscribe, and share this video with your friends. Subscribing to my channel is not going to cost you anything, but it's going to help me big time. Now back to our topic. The message is clear. The government wants to retain the skilled talent already living and working in the country. The role of economic immigration. Take the story of AJ, an international student from India who completed his master's degree in computer science at the University of Toronto. After graduating, he secured a job in the tech sector and became eligible for the Canadian Experience Class. AJ is just one of the many temporary residents who will transition to permanent residency over the next few years. This pathway is becoming increasingly important in Canada's immigration landscape as the government seeks to retain individuals like AJ who are already contributing to the economy. French-speaking admissions outside Quebec. One of the government's notable goals is to increase the proportion of French-speaking immigrants outside of Quebec. The target for French-speaking permanent residents are on the rise, with 8.5% of admissions in 2025, which is 29,325 individuals, increasing to 10% by 2027. That will be around 31,500 individuals. This is part of Canada's broader strategy to support linguistic delivery and bolster French-speaking communities across the country. It is a subtle but important shift that reflects Canada's commitment to maintaining bilingual heritage. Temporary resident levels. Now, let's talk about temporary residents. Another area seeing significant changes. For the first time, the immigration levels plan includes targets for temporary residents, which encompass foreign workers and international students. The government has made it clear that they intend to reduce the proportion of temporary residents from 7% of the population to 5% by 2026. Here is what the numbers look like for temporary resident arrival. 2025, 673,650. 2026, 516,600. 2027, 543,600. The biggest cuts will be in the foreign worker category, dropping from 367,750 in 2025 to just 210,700 in 2026. Interestingly, the number of international students will remain constant at around 305,000 per year, despite growing concerns about the strain on housing and the public services caused by the ballooning student population. Take the story of Maria, an international student from Brazil who came to study at a prestigious university in Ontario. With new cap on study permits, Maria had to apply early to secure her spot. As the government tightens restrictions on study permits, students like Maria face increased competition and uncertainty about their future in Canada. Will they be able to transition to permanent residency through the post-graduation work permit program? Or will they be caught in a system that's becoming increasingly selective? The cap on study permits and PGWP changes. In another groundbreaking move, the government announced earlier this year the first ever cap on international student admissions. Designed as a temporary measure, the cap limits study permits to 360,000 annually, with stricter rules on eligibility for post-graduation work permits. This policy was initially meant to be temporary, has now become permanent fixture of Canada's immigration landscape. Some of the major changes include international students in the programs with curriculum licensing agreements are no longer eligible for PGWPs. College graduates now need a CLB level 5 to be eligible for PGWPs, while university graduates need a CLB 7. Master's programs must be at least 18 months long for spouses to qualify for spousal open work permits. These changes are expected to reduce study permits by 300,000, PGWs by 175,000, and spousal open work permits by 150,000 over the next 3 years. The focus now is on aligning the student population with job market demands, ensuring that those who transition to permanent residency are filling in-demand roles in the Canadian workspace. Political motives and the controversy. So, what's the driving force behind these drastic changes? Critics argue that the reduction in immigration and temporary resident numbers are politically motivated. In his announcement, Prime Minister Trudeau himself acknowledged that these policies could help the Liberal Party win the next election. With rising concerns about housing, jobs, and the strain on public services, the government seems to be responding to public pressure. But are these cuts really the solution to Canada's challenges? Or will they create a new problem down the road? Some believe that reducing immigration could harm the economy, especially as Canada faces an aging population and labor shortages in key industries. Others see it as a necessary measure to protect the job market and ensure that new immigrants can integrate more smoothly into Canadian society. As this story unfolds, one thing is clear: Canada's immigration landscape is changing, and the effects will be felt for years to come. What do you think? Are these cuts a smart move, or do they risk damaging Canada's economy and international reputation? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Do not forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more updates on this developing story. In my next video, we will explore how these immigration changes could affect Canada's workforce and economy over the next decade. Will these cuts lead to more jobs for Canadians, or will they create a talent gap? Stay tuned to find out. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video.